In the war-torn country of Azura, the government had become increasingly corrupt and tyrannical. Citizens were routinely subjected to violence, oppression, and a lack of basic human rights. Amidst this chaos, a young freedom fighter named Amira emerged. Amira had grown up in a small village in Azura and had seen firsthand the devastating effects of the government's actions. She had lost family members and friends to their violence, and she knew that she had to do something to make a change. With a small group of fellow activists, Amira began to organize protests and speak out against the government's abuses. They distributed flyers, made speeches, and tried to spread the word about their cause. But the government did not take kindly to their activism. Amira and her comrades were beaten, arrested, and even tortured for their beliefs. Despite this, they refused to back down. As their movement grew in size and scope, Amira and her fellow freedom fighters began to plan more drastic actions. They organized a massive rally in the capital city, calling for the government to step down and make way for democratic reforms. But the government responded with overwhelming force. Tanks rolled through the streets, soldiers opened fire on the protesters, and chaos erupted. Amira and her friends were forced to flee for their lives, but they continued their fight from the shadows. They smuggled in weapons, organized guerrilla attacks, and slowly began to gain ground against the government's forces. Their victories were hard-won, and the personal sacrifices were immense. Amira lost friends and comrades along the way, and she was constantly haunted by the memory of those who had fallen. But despite the odds, they continued to fight. And eventually, after years of struggle and sacrifice, they succeeded. The government was overthrown, and a new era of freedom and democracy began in Azura. Amira and her fellow freedom fighters were hailed as heroes, and they knew that their sacrifices had been worth it. They had fought for justice and freedom, and they had won.